And I think that's the biggest mistake, for a lot of us is living at your wage and not necessarily living above your wage, but living at your wage.
Yeah, we need to live below our wage.
Really,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
way below our wage, but
Yeah.
is that real feasible?
Yeah. I'm a mathematician, so everything falls in that 80-20 kind of rule, which is like a universal rule that everything is like 80%, 20, you know, the 80% of the results versus the 20% of the results are always going to be the same across everything. There's always a margin of error that's always going to be like in that 80-20. And so I tell people, you live that 80-20 life, you're going to have a successful life. You know what I mean?
mm, mm.
You live off of 80% of what you make, save 20. When you retire, you're going to have a whole bunch of money stacked up that you never thought you'd have. And it's really that simple.
Yeah, look, what I will say, in my later years is that that is certainly simpler said than done. You know,
Yeah.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
having had that, literally, as you get older, you realize, man, if 2 things, if somebody had said that to me, I would have, uh, behaved differently, but then the truth of it is, would you have behaved differently knowing this information? At a certain point in your life, going back to the question I asked you earlier about 20-year-olds, like, you know that you wanna retire at 45 or 50, but as a 20-year-old really going to focus on that? And I know that I didn't. That's just me. I know at 20, 21, 22, the last thing on my mind was retirement, which should have been, you know. But yeah, we're in a different space now.
And it goes back to the exposure thing. Like I said, like I started working this industry right literally right when I graduated. I interned while I was in high school
Mm,
work study program. I was part of the junior achievements program, and so I got to get out of school an hour to go work my job and my part
right,
time job.
right, right.
At a financial planning firm, working at Prudential, and I saw very successful people, driving Mercedes and Alfa Romeos and this kind of stuff, and I'm like, all right, how do I do that?
Right. This is what I want to do.
And so it's exposure and asking questions. And I think, again, as a community, we don't expose our kids to this stuff. Like, we expose our kids to negative stuff, but we don't expose our kids to a lot of positive stuff. You know, we'll let our 3-year-old go to Big Mama's funeral, right? And see everybody crying and weeping and everything, but we won't take them to the bank with us to see how you write a check and how you deposit a check and how
Hmm,
you like. We don't do that.
that's a good point.
That's a very good point. We definitely, the key word is exposure here. You're absolutely right.
And I would say, and again, this is not, bashing our community because I see it across the board because, you know, we all, as everyone has the same plight. It is how do I get from my working years to my working years to my slow go years to my no go years, like how do I get there?